To what extent are we aware of the functioning of the mind, which is the memory, understanding, comprehension, and perception ability in humans? What is the mind? How is its structure? What is he trying to tell and show us? Is it reliable? How does it create its content? The brain, which is the organ of the mind, makes contact with the world as an infinite potential that must be constructed differently from other organs when the baby is born. As soon as the brain begins to encounter the outside world, it begins to take shape. In fact, a newborn baby has more neurons and synaptic connections in the brain than an adult. The brain is highly complex and armed with billions of electrochemical rivers. Just as synaptic connections occur in the brain and nervous system, electrochemical river beds are constantly changing shape. The multiplicity of synaptic connection is directly proportional to the multiplicity of generating new experiences. In other words, the mind is a configurable and infinitely wide field that contains infinite possibilities. The answer to the question of where the mind is at the point where science has come is not clear, because, in experiments, it has been proven that in subjects with a large part of the brain removed, memory still exists. In other words, the mind is in a position that transcends the body, and even includes the body. Human being is the only conscious being of existence, and has the same substance as all existence. In addition, if we compare humanity to the ocean and a human being to a water drop in the ocean, the analogy that the water drop exists only for the ocean and within the ocean would be a correct analogy. We can say that human life is an information network. He gathers the information he receives limited to his sense organs and gives them meaning in his mind. We can say that the mind is the sum of its choices, which is the product of an information processing mechanism that is formed as a result of the choices made by the nervous system that processes data. People have different mind maps. The mind processes all the data it receives through the sense organs, and cognition is formed. Cognition, in short, is the process of acquiring or becoming conscious about the object, event, or phenomenon. Consciousness, on the other hand, is the ability of a person to be aware of his own existence, objects, events, his own mind content, and the ability to make choices. In addition, the human has self-consciousness, that is, the subject of which is not an object, can be put in front of the consciousness of self and self-consciousness. The mind is a wide field that enables to think, understand, and reason in some way by establishing intellectual networks. The mind harbors the ability to reason and does so by providing contextual integrity between stimuli. Reasoning means bringing everything learned from the past to the present, combining it with what has been learned today, and using all learned functionally. Well, is the mind reliable? This question actually contains within itself that the mind cannot be trusted. The mind has a structure that changes from moment to moment with the data it receives from the senses. One of the features of the brain is that it records incoming data by correcting it. The mind compares each data with what it knows, that is, what it has learned before. While processing something he sees, if he does not recognize it, he returns to the person, says there is an error here, corrects it again, and sends it again. In other words, the brain also has the ability to complete in accordance with its own expectations and habits. So he can put together what is not actually there. It creates a scenario by correcting and completing whatever is in memory. If this scenario does not distract the mind, then it accepts it. So one can never be sure of his own mind. The mind is extremely unreliable and can manipulate itself. For human, uncertainty is synonymous with danger. The perception of danger triggers anxiety and wants to remove uncertainty to take action against anxiety. In other words, people want to give meaning in order to eliminate uncertainty and anxiety caused by uncertainty. This effort to make sense creates the unique design stories of individuals. How are these stories formed? Mind is contextual, so memory and perception are not isolated functions. Everything exists together with the whole and cannot be thought of separately. Perception, what, why, and how, asks his questions. What defines the facts? Personalized design stories come into play in the answers of why and how questions. There is anxiety about what has not happened. Man pollutes the present with perception of the past and fear of the future. In fact, whoever tries to understand the mind understands it instantly. Everyone lives in the moment, and the important thing is to be able to stay in the moment. It is to be a part of that moment and to be able to stand in that moment without judgment. What does that bring? It brings the ability to come face to face with pain. Why does one run away to the past and the future with his thoughts? Because he has difficulty carrying the emotion of that moment. When every thought is perceived as if it were real, anxiety is created by looking at them as realizable. That's when this moment disappears. This is where it becomes important to be more mindful and focused on the present and remain part of the moment. This is where it becomes important to be more mindful and focused on the present and remain part of the moment. It is necessary to perceive the quality of the relationship established with the experience and the importance of the meaning given to them rather than what is experienced. Incorrect grounding of the mind, wrong ways of thinking, that is, the importance of avoiding illusion has become more and more debated issue day by day. Another reason for false mental inferences is individualization and break with society. This rupture has a negative effect on the thinking system produced by people. One of the reasons for this is that people cling to their own thoughts. Since these thoughts are generally unreal and negative thoughts due to the manipulative nature of the mind, they take the person and take them to incredible places. One finds himself lamenting things that have not happened. Man is imprisoned in the world he created with his own words and concepts. In short, man has a mind that functions biased. He finds and sees what he is looking for and what he wants to see in his life. The found also varies according to the searched. At the same time, the issue of judgment directs one's life. If it can be lived without judgment and staying in the moment, this can create a reliable mind. If one can look at events and objects as they are, anxiety will disappear. In other words, a conscious life begins. In these non-judgmental moments, that is, when the internal dialogue is silent, like gaps in a network, there are gaps in thoughts or internal dialogue. These gaps are windows or corridors of transformation that provide passage to the real reality. Also, what are we here for? What am I? Who am I? It is one of the first steps taken to awareness. If a person strives to know and discover himself, he can adopt a conscious life and build a new life with his own values.